Right, I'm Dave from Northern Design Digital Marketing. Usually what I say when I introduce myself to people is professional colour runner, because pretty much all design is colouring in some form or other. But I'm going to give a little bit of a background of where I started as well. So I was 15-year-old and I was absolutely drunk off my nut in a bar when I probably shouldn't have been. And I knocked on a printer's and went, "Hi, can I have a job?" Went, Why am I going to hire you? "Oh, I'm a designer." "Are you really?" "Yeah, I'm not going to pay you, but come and have a job." And for the next 6 weeks in the school holidays, I worked in a print agency and learned how to cut paper, how to make paper, like how all the paper worked, and how design actually fed into the print world. And it was just unreal. I've got a really sad skill now of being able to touch a bit of paper and tell you the gram per square inch of what that actually weighs and how to pick out and what stock it is and gloss, matte, whatever. And it's one of the best skills I've got when I'm designing for print now. Then did the usual, went to uni, learnt design, actually did web design and programming back in the day, and learnt how to use Java. Really useful, right? But it taught me how to work with devs and how to actually build and design for developers and work in collaboration with them. Then the best thing happened. I was getting sick of uni, and it was learning Java wasn't right for design. It wasn't me, it wasn't who I wanted to be. And I started applying for jobs. I started looking around. I'm going to apply for every single job I can see on LinkedIn. I think I applied for 300 different jobs around Europe. And I got offered 2, one in London and one in Amsterdam. So moved to Amsterdam. I was 22-year-old, just finished uni, and I got on a boat for my job interview to go to Amsterdam, and I think the only reason I got the job wasn't because of my design skills. It was because I got on a 36-hour boat to go to a job interview, and they repaid me with amazing, like, just so much support, so much design. So I worked for Citizen M Hotels. I was the visual designer for Citizen M, and the amount of brand identity knowledge that they gave me, the introduction to what tone of voice is, the introduction to what brand identity means from an award-winning hotel agent company who were designed by another award-winning design agency called Kessel's Kramer. So learning from some of the best in Amsterdam, the best in Europe, and it was just such a way to get introduced to the world of design. And then I came back home a few years later and dotted around some of the design agencies around Newcastle, worked for Shout, worked for Orange Bus, worked for, God, I can't even remember all. I've been introduced to quite a lot of different ones around the Northeast, and they've all been so influential to me in some positive, some negative, some kickdowns, some build-ups. And one of my old boss said to me once was, "If you can't dazzle them with diamonds, baffle them with bullshit," which works so well in the design world, because you've got to actually back up your design with some rationale, with some colour schemes. But at the end of the day, you've got to dazzle them with the diamonds, and you've got to show them what looks good and what works. And again, that's kind of how brand became a big important part of my life, was learning from some of the best designers and some of the best brands in Europe, and coming back home and getting my arse handed to me because I wasn't a good enough designer when I came back to the Northeast, because the quality up here is unreal. And in honesty, when I came back and started working here, I was not good enough. I was running a design team, but I knew one brand and I knew one design, and that's all I could do. Trying to put that to other design agencies, other projects, I just wasn't good enough to do it. So I had to learn again and build myself back up, working with other amazing designers from the Northeast. So this talk is more tailored towards business people, in honesty, and you're all designers, so it's a little bit nerve-wracking talking to people who know when I'm bullshitting and when I'm not, and when I'm talking out my arse. And that's the thing, is what I want to do is try and balance that with some rationale. But what I always say is, can colouring in get you more leads for a business? And we know how powerful design is. Where you put a button on a website can make all the impact. What colours you use can impact psychology and impact how you feel emotionally. And that's what leads me on to, has anyone heard of the pink prison effect? So in the early 80s or late 70s, a researcher decided he's going to paint some prisons pink and see how it affects people and see how it affects the behaviour of the inmates. And it actually was proven to reduce testosterone in the inmates and reduce the amount of fights and aggression. And that's where colour can affect how you feel and how you purchase things online and how you interact with the brand. Out of these two, football changing rooms. Sorry, it's AI photography. I'm going to apologise for that. I didn't have access to a big changing room at the time. Which one do you think is going to make you want to play more and play more? Which one's going to make you feel more revved up for the game? Obviously the one on the left, because it's more relaxing, it's more, not relaxing, sorry, that's the wrong word, more energetic. It makes you want to push and beat the team. The one on the right makes you feel a bit down, a bit, meh. I don't want to play, I can't be bothered. Sorry, say that again? Yeah, exactly. But this has been proven in football. A lot of football stadiums now do it. It was first put into American football, but Stadium of Light do it. That's actually where I first heard about this effect, when I was 10 and went on a little stadium tour, not knowing anything about football. I'm not a football fan, but I liked pink and how it worked. But colour can actually, like I said earlier, it reduces testosterone, has a calming effect on different people, and it actually disrupts the expectations of what people are going to do going forward. Now imagine that in different parts of your brand and different elements of what you publish to the world and how you do that. Amazon had a great bit of research done way early on in the Amazon days, which was the £1 million button. Has anyone heard of the £1 million button? Amazon, when they first, you know the Amazon brands, it's yellows, it's quite bright. They actually changed their button to green one night, and overnight they made £1 million just by changing the button to green, because green means go. In a lot of cultures. Not all cultures act the same. So in America, green means money. Over here, green means equal. So it's what people associate with that colour as well. So different regions of the world. China, for example, red means completely different to what it means over here, and it just affects different things. So I'm going to give you a little exercise as a business, and we're going to imagine you going to a cocktail party. So imagine you've had a couple of drinks, you're having a laugh. If you don't drink, just imagine you've been really relaxed overnight. And who are you who is your business, who is your brand when you go to a party? Are you the hippie that has the hair flowing around, dancing in the corner, just dancing around? Or are you the businessman who's sat there like with his arms crossed, looking all intense and stern? Your brand is a set of personality. It's a personality that you put onto people, or what you show off, and how you show that to the world. So you've got all these different personalities who your business could be. I'd probably say I'm more the clown, more a little bit of the business. I try to be the business. I'm more of the clown, I'd say, for myself. I'd like to be a bit of hippie, but I'm really not. And you can associate your brand with a certain type of characteristics and build your persona around that characteristic type. But a brand isn't just the logo, it isn't just colours, it's all of your senses in one. And I didn't actually put photography in this, which I really should have, because it does affect it. The way that a photo can be taken with the lights can affect certain ways, the colours that are used in the background, whether it's such a high contrast photo or even just the depth of field can impact how you feel on an image. But let's talk about sight first. We all know Barbie pink. Ever we see the Barbie pink, we know it's Barbie pretty much straight away. We've seen how Mattel did that with everything around when they put all that budget for the Barbie movie, and they did it so well. And then you've got sound, so you've got sonic identities. Again, the Netflix to dumb, you instantly recognize that. It makes you feel, oh, what's that? What's that new movie? What's that new TV series? But it goes just beyond an instantly recognizable sound. You've got the music that's playing in a cafe at 12 o'clock compared to what's playing at 9 o'clock. And this is where I learned about sonic identity, was at Citizen M. At 10 o'clock in the morning, they would play quite chilled, atmospheric music to get people to wake up. Afternoon, it'd be more like Ed Sheeran vibes. And then on a night, to get people a bit more drunk, or get people drinking a bit more, they'd have like low house playing and like sub house just constantly going in the background. And that was all chosen to make people feel a certain way at a certain time of the day. In olfactive identities as well. Again, I learned this from Citizen M, but they had a smell pumped in to the reception area as you walked in. It was made by a guy whose nickname was the Nose, because he could pick out any smell and build any scent you wanted. But Apple do this really well. When you pick up and you slide the box off an Apple thing, you get that smell. When you walk into an Apple shop, you've also got that smell. And they all affect how you purchase, and they all affect what you're looking at. Clean, if you've got like a musky kind of smell, musky's probably not the right word, more masculine type smell, or a more feminine, or a more clean in Apple's case, a bit more rigid, a bit more scientific. That's where Apple comes in. Or I'll get onto it a little bit later, but Lush. As you walk into Lush, you've got the florals, you've got the femininity, you've got all that builds their brand together. But it's also the rustic side of it and the natural side that brings Lush out. Oh wait, touch. I was on about scent, but now touch actually. Lush do that really well with actual touch scent and tactile branding. As you walk into Lush, you start playing with the products, you actually feel what you're buying. And there's other companies that do it as well. I'm trying to think. Again, Apple, how the clean as it slides off. But Lush makes you actually play around with it and gets you to engage and use the products that you're going to buy before you actually buy them. And playing with your emotion side of things as well. Nike, they go after either the political side or the personal side, like the emotions that you feel when you're trying to run and you don't know how you're running. It's only like the only limit is you, for example, or the just do it. It's their tone of voice that makes that work. And then going on to the tone of voice side of things, you've got innocent, the playful, the funky, bit of a joke about itself. Like Monzo is another great example. Monzo's tone of voice is one of my favourite tone of voices out there. They're serious, professional, but take the piss out themselves a little bit, and they have a little laugh. That's why you've got the marketing campaigns like the Greggs campaign that they ran. Absolutely fantastic campaign, but it was bang on for their brand because it was playful and it was still serious and got people engaging with an ATM. Why am I sounding American? The cash machine. But it works together and builds everybody that natural and gets people engaged in their brand and basically gets people to work with them to be a part of their brand as well. So what is branding? It's all of those things put together. It's all of the colouring in, it's the logo, it's the feel, it's the senses, it's what you feel when you come out of when you engage with a product that you use. Like when you come out of an Apple store, you feel, I want that product, I want that new thing, I want to feel that luxury, that high-end style. Look at the difference between buying a Rolls Royce versus buying a Ferrari. Rolls Royce, they don't actually, I'm stealing Rory Sutherland here, because again, amazing marketer. But Rolls Royce don't advertise in car shows, they advertise at airplane shows, because people who buy Rolls Royce, they're not buying a car. They're going out to buy an aeroplane, and a car's just a bit of pocket money for them. That's why Rolls-Royce advertise at airplane shows. But how do you define your brand, and how do you want to build your brand, and how do you choose which elements you are, and how do you actually become that? So it's different characteristics, like I say, whether you are the clown, whether you are the outlaw, the circus, the businessman, all of these different personalities all put together. And you've got the archetypes, so the sage, the outlaw, the magician, and you've got like the magician is like Disney because it's playful, it inspires. You've got the ruler, which is like the queen, the royalty, the regality of it. The creator like Apple and Tim, why can't I remember his name? Steve Jobs, I was going to call him Tim Jobs. Close enough. But let's look at Brewdog. Which archetype do you think this is? What type of person? What do you think the colours of this mean? Anybody? You're sorry?
No.
Bang on. You got there before I even got the point. But you've got the rustic, the grungy style, the in-your-face attitude. The fonts are bold and get in your way and make it sound like they want to disrupt the market, because that's what they did in this world. They disrupted the entire beer market by being an independent brewer, but having their own brand identity. And the photography style was basically playful, but also industrial. And rules are meant to be broken. Again, I love this AI, because once I figured out how to get AI to do text, I was like, I've got to get some stuff on Brewdog. And which one of these do you think is luxury, and which one do you think is affordable? Left, if you think it's there, sorry. Put your hands up if you think left is the affordable one, and right is the luxury one? No, or right is the affordable one. Why is that? It's because of the cartoon style elements. And the luxury side is because of the hard edges, the blacks, the elegance, and the gradients work for that. They build up that brand. Now, which one's masculine and which one's feminine? Right for masculine? Yeah. It's because of the square edges, where on the left you've got don't try and take the pink, because that was the first thing that you see, but you've got the rounded corners. They actually promote a little bit of femininity to that and make it softer edges, where the fonts on the right are very hard edge fonts. They're very straight to the point and bold and really big and bright. Sorry, big and in your face, where it's softer on the left and a little bit more relaxed feeling. And this is a personality slider where you put on, is my brand more masculine? Is my brand more feminine? Is it simple, complex? And I ran this with the team at Gen 2, the social housing company, and they actually found out that in-house they perceive themselves as quite authoritarian and quite complex, and quite simple to understand. But when we put this to actual public and asked people who were in Gen 2's housing, they thought they were unbelievably complex and nobody could understand what they meant. They thought they were actually quite authoritarian and not quite authoritarian, but not willing to engage with the customers. And that's where your own defined personality is different to your customer's personality as well. And defining that together and building that brand that matches who you either want to be or who you're building to be or who you want to be for your customers is so important. This is a way to do that and get your answer of who you are as a brand. This will use the same slider and give you an outlaw or a magician. No affiliation, it's a really good design agency down south, but they built this slider for me so I didn't have to. This will help your brand define who you are as well. If anyone wants to scan it, I'll leave it on for a second before I jump over. Grab a drink. Anyone still scanning? There we go. And that's pretty much it. I've built an AI tool that does a free website and brand audit. So basically you send me your website or your goals, and I'll use AI to scan your website, tell you what's wrong with it in both semantic digital HTML, SEO, and based on images for general UX principles as well. So that'll all built on AI, free of charge. If you want it, scan that and just send us an email. And that's how you get in touch with us as well. I think that's it. Does anyone have any questions?
We do have a couple of minutes for questions.
I ran through that a bit quickly. Anyone? Thank you.
I have a question.
Yep.
I get that, like, every part fits into the personality. So whether it's the emotional branding, the colours, the smell, whatever it might be, is there? And I also understand that it might be different depending on each person. But is there one that strikes a chord more with you, and like who you would decide to shop with versus not?
I love the Monzo one. I'm an early investor in Monzo. I've been using Monzo since it was called Mondo, like around about 10 years ago now, because of that playful, in-your-face, the coral card that is instantly recognizable, their tone of voice, their way of just engaging with everybody. Duolingo is another great one, but I think they've took it too far and started to lose who they were originally. Aldi. I think that's just. I love offensive branding. I love things that will cause stir, things that will get people riled up and pissed off. There's an agency, I think they're in Manchester or Leeds, called Offended Marketing by Dan. I can't remember his full name, but the stuff that he puts out, he just rips the shit out of every politician, no matter what side of the fence you're on, whether left or right. He just goes after everybody and does it in such a way that explains the marketing behind it. And his tone of voice as his own personal brand is something that I would love to aspire to be, because he just doesn't have a filter, and I feel like I've got my own filter, which I'm trying to get rid of, and I want to become the outlaw. And right now I think I'm not that outlaw yet. I think I'm a bit more, I'll have to go back on my list and see. I think I'm more the toned down outlaw, more the clown. Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you very much.
No problems. Thank you.